The mountain station was quiet that December evening, wrapped in falling snow and the kind of silence that made the world feel smaller. Daniel stood on the platform with his daughter Emma beside him, her small hand tucked into his, her breath forming little clouds in the cold air. He'd learned to live with the quiet. 3 years since Sarah passed, 3 years of morning pancakes and bedtime stories, and pretending the empty side of the bed didn't ache. The train was late. Again. Emma leaned against his leg, her backpack shaped like a bunny slipping off one shoulder. "Daddy, I'm cold," she whispered. He knelt down, zipping her coat higher, tucking her scarf tighter. "I know, sweetheart. The train will be here soon." But even as he said it, the overhead speaker crackled. Another delay. Mechanical issue. At least an hour, maybe more. Daniel sighed, glancing around the near-empty station. A few travelers huddled on benches, clutching coffee cups. And then he saw her. She stood near the ticket counter, alone, soaked from the snow outside. Her long wool coat was expensive, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, but it clung to her shoulders, heavy with melted snow. Her heels clicked against the tile as she moved, sharp and deliberate, like she was used to controlling every room she entered. Her dark hair was pinned back, a few strands falling loose. In one hand, she gripped a leather briefcase. In the other, her phone, which she stared at with a kind of exhausted fury. Daniel didn't recognize her face at first, but Emma did. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging his sleeve. "That's the lady from the TV." He looked again, and then he realized. Victoria Hale, CEO of Hale Industries, billionaire, the woman whose face graced magazine covers, whose name appeared in headlines about corporate takeovers and innovation summits. She was always photographed in boardrooms or on stages, calm and commanding. But here now, she looked lost. She set her briefcase down and wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. Daniel glanced at the bench where he and Emma had been sitting, the only one near the small heater vent in the corner. He looked back at Victoria, standing there alone, trembling. Emma tugged his hand. "Daddy, she's cold." He nodded. Then, without overthinking it, he stood and walked toward her. "Excuse me," he said gently. Victoria looked up, startled. Her expression was guarded, professional, like she was bracing for a request or a pitch. "I'm sorry to bother you," Daniel continued, "but there's a bench over there near the heater. You're welcome to it. My daughter and I were just sitting, but you look like you need it more." She blinked. For a moment she didn't move. Then her eyes softened, just slightly. Thank you," she said quietly. Her voice was different than he expected, softer, tired. "Come on," he said, gesturing. "It's warmer." Victoria followed him across the platform, her heels echoing in the stillness. Emma looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. "Hi," Emma said shyly. Victoria paused, then crouched down slightly, offering a small, careful smile. "Hi. You're really pretty," Emma said. A flicker of surprise crossed Victoria's face. Something genuine, unguarded. "Thank you," she murmured. "So are you." Daniel motioned to the bench. "Please, sit." She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the bench, exhaling as the warmth from the vent reached her. Daniel sat on the opposite end, Emma between them, swinging her legs. For a few minutes, no one spoke. The snow continued to fall outside the glass walls of the station, soft and endless. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected connections, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Dad and Fate. "Is the train always this late?" Victoria asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Pretty often," Daniel said with a small smile, "especially in winter." She nodded, staring down at her hands. Her fingers were pale, trembling slightly. Daniel noticed, and without a word, he reached into his bag and pulled out a thermos. "Here," he said, offering it. "It's just coffee. Nothing fancy, but it's warm." Victoria looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. Then she took the thermos. "Thank you," she said again. This time her voice cracked just a little. She took a sip, closed her eyes, and let out a breath. Emma leaned forward. "Are you going somewhere important?" Victoria looked at the little girl, and for the first time her expression softened completely. I was, but I don't think it matters anymore. Why not? Emma asked innocently. Victoria smiled, sad, distant. Because no one's waiting for me when I get there. The words hung in the cold air. Daniel didn't push. He just nodded, understanding more than she realized. An hour passed. The station stayed quiet. The delay stretched longer. Daniel gave Emma his jacket to use as a pillow, and she curled up on the bench, half asleep. Victoria watched her, something wistful in her gaze. She's beautiful, she said softly. She is, Daniel agreed. She's my whole world. Just the two of you? He nodded. Her mom passed away 3 years ago. Victoria's face shifted. Grief, recognition, empathy. I'm so sorry. Thank you, he paused. It's been hard, but Emma, she keeps me going, keeps me human. Victoria looked down at her hands again. I don't have that. Daniel glanced at her. I have buildings with my name on them, she continued quietly. I have board meetings and stock reports and people who depend on me for their livelihood. But I don't have, she trailed off, her voice breaking. I don't have anyone who asks how I am. Who cares if I make it home? Daniel felt the weight of her words. He'd known loneliness, but hers was different. His came from loss. Hers came from isolation inside success. You deserve that, he said gently. Everyone does. She looked at him, eyes glistening. Do they? Yes. For a long moment, they just sat there. Two strangers, two kinds of loneliness, two people who'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. The announcement came at last. Train arriving in 10 minutes. Emma stirred awake. Victoria stood, straightening her coat, pulling herself back together. But something in her had softened. As the train pulled into the station, Daniel picked up Emma, who wrapped her arms around his neck sleepily. Victoria turned to him. Thank you, she said, for the seat, for the coffee, she paused, for reminding me what kindness looks like. Daniel smiled. You didn't need reminding. You just needed someone to show you it still exists. Her eyes held his for a moment longer than necessary. Then, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small business card. She handed it to him. If you ever need anything, she said, or if you just want to talk. He looked down at the card. Victoria Hale, CEO. A phone number written in pen at the bottom. Maybe I will, he said. She smiled, real, warm, hopeful. The train doors opened. They boarded separately. But as Daniel found his seat with Emma, he looked across the aisle. And there she was, looking back at him. She mouthed 2 words, thank you. He nodded. And as the train pulled away from the station, into the snowy night, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. If this story touched your heart, support Dad and Fate so we can bring more stories of love, healing, and hope. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, because every act of kindness deserves to be remembered.